Welcome to another edition of Sunday Night Football with Bengal Jim and Friends, the new Tuesday night edition as we change our format moving forward here through football season. So on our screens, we have our guy James from Brownsburg, Indiana, and we've got Jamie. We're going to change it up a little bit here, Jamie. I'm going to give you some Canadian trivia. Jamie being from Brantford, real close to Toronto. Name a Canadian reggae rapper, late 80s, early 90s, white dude. Come on. Informer was the name of one of his.
Snow.
No, you got it.
Oh, yeah.
Jamie might be the coolest Canadian ever on the show right now. I can't believe you knew that one.
I didn't know Snow was Canadian.
Informer, dude. I mean, everyone knows that song.
Yeah.
Is that it down there too?
It was back for 30 years ago.
We're going to have to add that to the tailgate playlist, though, just for Jamie and our Canadian friends.
That'd be great.
All right, guys. Hey, we'll be quick. I know we have James Rapien in the room right now waiting on us, but we just want to give you a couple quick updates. Want to thank everybody for the last few weeks. We've been taking donations for the Ken Anderson Alliance and the raffle. Guys, you guys raised over $3,300 for the Ken Anderson Alliance. Ken Anderson, Kevin Pott, and the whole group from the Ken Anderson line is so appreciative. They were actually down at the drive-in tailgate this weekend as well. There was a drawing for the Ken Anderson college jersey, the football, and the helmet. Elizabeth Paul from Cincinnati, Ohio, won that. We called her from the parking lot. She was screaming, so excited, yelling on the phone. So thanks so much for everybody. I mean, $3,300. You can't imagine how much that meant to the Ken Anderson Alliance.
Yeah, that was great. We appreciate everyone chipping in. And I tell you what, talking about that drive-in tailgate, what an awesome time. Jamie wasn't there, so I'm gonna brag a little bit. Let's see. I can't tell you how much food I ate. Steve and Jeff had the fantastic wraps that I had one of. Hopefully he has his foot elevated so his brother doesn't yell at him. That's kind of an inside joke. But let's see. Cookie Lady was there with lots of cookies. And then our man Jungle Joe has I think we're gonna brand it Jungle Joe Bengal Jim beef jerky. Because I ate a whole package there. I took a couple home. It was so good. So thanks for the food from those three. That was great. And we had the awesome food truck there. But weather was great. It was a fun day.
Did we get the peanut butter shots from Joe as well? I don't know what. People were just handing us drinks all day. It was great. So everybody did such an outstanding job. Again, 100 spots in that parking lot. We pre-sold 40. Everybody did the social distancing. We had the Jumbotron up. People were wearing the mask as they were walking around. It was an outstanding day. The only way it would have went better is if the Bengals pulled out that win. I can tell you that if the Bengals pulled out that win, they would have heard us inside the stadium because it was really loud in that parking lot when things were going good for the Bengals. So a very fun time. Stay tuned. What's going on for the next home game. We're going to be doing something else. Just kind of keep an eye on us on social media. We'll inform you what's going on there with the next tailgate. James, you want to talk about the new format and why we're going Tuesday night?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, Sunday's busy day in the NFL, and it worked great for us during the off season. But Tuesday night's kind of a dead night. Nothing going on during the week. Just coming off Monday Night Football and the weekend ahead. Great opportunity to preview before Thursday night starts. So we figured that we'd make that shift during the season. So from here forward, plan on Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Help spread the word. We're going to talk about the game last week. It's kind of behind us now, but really looking forward to week number 2 in Cleveland and starting 1-0 in the AFC North.
Yeah, good stuff. So real quick rundown. We're going to have James Rapien come on here in just a few seconds. We're going to do Bengal History 101 with Tom Justin. We're going to talk about the rivalry and why this game against the CityUpNorth is important to the Brown family, Cincinnati in general. The whole background on that, Paul Brown being fired by Art Modell. We're going to get into that discussion here and get into a little bit of education on the history around this rivalry. And it's significant, guys. It's going to be something that's going to be fun to talk about. We have a fan of the week from the West Coast again, and we'll finish the discussion today with our question of the week. So, guys, let's go ahead and get into it here. Let's go ahead and bring on James if he's in the room right now. James, welcome, buddy. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me. You guys have any more peanut butter shots?
Yeah, probably not after Sunday.
We'll bring them to Cleveland Thursday with us.
I'll be there. I'll be up there for sure.
We'll be there. So, James, thanks for being with us. We kind of wanted just to do something different here for the first Tuesday night show. We kind of wanted to kind of recap, talk about that Chargers game a little bit, and let's preview the upcoming game Thursday night. So let's get your takes, man. I wanted to talk about let's talk about some of the things that went well for the team and some of the things that we think they need to work on here in order for them to be more successful. Want to start with you. What are some of the positive takes that you had out of the game from this past week, James?
I like it. I like that we're starting positive. Let's start with defense. The defense was extremely impressive. Look, Geno Atkins was out, and I thought that was a pretty big deal considering you look at this Bengals team, and I get it. They added a bunch of guys to that side of the ball. But what did they struggle with last year? They struggled tackling. They struggled against the running game. And you look at the numbers against the Chargers, and it's, they gave up some rushing yards, but those really only happened when DJ Reader was gone with cramps, when he left that one drive, the Chargers' lone touchdown drive. Outside of that, I thought the young linebackers flashed. Jermaine Pratt played well. I thought Josh Bynes certainly played well, and you expected that out of a veteran. But the defensive line held up well against the run. They got off the field on 4th and short multiple times, and the secondary as well. I don't know how you can't mention positives without saying Jesse Bates. I think it was the best game of his young career. He looks, and I had a feeling he might, with Von Bell, kind of break out this year. It looks like it's going to be a breakout year for a guy like Jesse Bates. And William Jackson III played kind of like it was 2017 all over again, which is a really good sign. Only one game, but I was really impressed with the defense. And then, as everybody knows, and as we've all talked about, as bad as it was at times on offense, that final drive, that's the Joe Burrow experience, right? 8 of 11, 70 yards, drives them downfield with the game on the line, doesn't flinch. And here's the thing no one's talking about. Everyone talks about Joey Bosa. Everyone talks about Melvin Ingram. The Chargers might have the best cornerbacks in the league.
Agree.
They really might. That was a really good secondary, and I get it. They didn't have Derwin James, but still high-end corners in Los Angeles. And the fact that Joe Burrow has the worst throw maybe he's ever going to have of his career. I mean, it was such an awful shovel pass. And he responds and he drives him downfield and he throws the game-winning touchdown. That's what he did. He didn't know that there was going to be a penalty. Drops a dime to A.J. Green. I was extremely impressed with how he responded to adversity, because adversity is going to happen this year. That's just the reality of it. And the fact that he responded that way is something we saw throughout camp, and it was good to see it translate on Sunday.
Yeah, let's keep hitting some of these positives. Just to kind of reiterate on Jesse Bates, I was reading an article on Pro Football Focus today. I think he was the 5th highest rated defender in the NFL this weekend at like 91.6, the scoring system that Pro Football Focus has. And Joe Burrow, I mean, can you imagine stuff legends are made of, man, taking that drive, and should not have been flag should have been kept in the damn pocket. When the defender grabs AJ and he does extend, there was a little bit of acting going on there. But at the end of the day, he was under pressure the whole day. And, he finished that last drive like he'd been in the NFL for a long time. So really cool stuff to see that. And the secondary was just awesome. So let's talk about some things we need help on, man. And I'm going to start off with this one, and I want to hear your take on this, James. That offensive line struggled early, I think, and again, correct me if I'm wrong. You probably have this data a little bit more accurate than I do, but pressures throughout the game. Bobby Hart had 6, Hopkins and Jonah had 3, Jordan and Xavier had 2, and Billy Price had 1. I mean, Bobby Hart got his lunch handed to him here, Sunday, but they need to do a better job as a unit. But we knew going into the season, without preseason, the two units that might be affected the most might be that offensive line and that special team. So I get it. We're going to get better there, but that is the glaring thing we need to get better. We just need to be average there.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll take average. If the Bengals had an average offensive line, they easily would have won Sunday. I think they'd be the more talented team almost in a lot of ways against the Browns, and they'd have a shot against any team in the league. But the problem is when you have a rookie quarterback who is as good as Burrow is and as smart as he is, because you could see him process and move from his progressions when he gets time from one side of the field to the other side of the field. He's really good at that stuff. I mean, that final drive was Brady-esque, Breeze-esque. That's just how he looked. which most rookies don't. But if you don't have time, you can't do it. And I don't think there's a way to solve Bobby Hart. We know who Bobby Hart is. He's made 33 consecutive starts for the Cincinnati Bengals. We know who he is. And the alarming part to me, all offseason, wasn't the fact that that they had Bobby Hart. He's fine to keep in this offensive line. You know what he is, like I said. So why not try to upgrade there? And then going into Sunday, because they didn't upgrade, they backed him and they were positive about him and all of that stuff. They said all the right things. You do a lot of 5-man protections, and you leave Burrow out to dry some, specifically in the first half when the offense couldn't function. They had 88 total yards from scrimmage in the first half. 23 came on that quarterback draw, which Burrow audible to, and 13 came earlier in that drive when Trey Hopkins' shotgun snap. Burrow wasn't ready, and he threw the slant to Green for 13 yards. I mean, so that's half of your first half offense on those two plays. Honestly, you have to scheme around it. And I was bummed during training camp when Bobby Hart wasn't competing for the starting job. I thought that Fred Johnson should get a shot, but it just seemed like Bobby had earned it somehow. And I don't really know how, because there was no real offseason. It was a virtual offseason. But it isn't just Bobby. And part of that has to do with the opponent. I will say that. Joey Bosa is a top 3 pass rusher in the NFL, probably. Melvin Ingram, top 5, top 6. I mean, they're studs. So that's part of it. But the problem is, if you know your offensive line's your weakest position group, which everybody in the world, besides maybe the coaching staff, I guess, of the Bengals did, and you know that you're going against this all-world pass rush in the secondary, which I mentioned, high-end cornerbacks, why not try to scheme around it? In the first half specifically, it didn't feel like they did. And just looking ahead, I would expect to hopefully see more of that up-tempo stuff, try to get these pass rushers tired. Bosa got tired at the end of that game.
Yeah.
And I think if you could get Garrett tired, given that there's no preseason, then you can have a shot. So it's going to be a weakness, I think, all season long. And unfortunately, the Bengals were unable to upgrade this offseason at those spots. And, if Hart continues to struggle, I wouldn't be surprised to see someone else there. But I think the coaching staff likes him. They believe in him, and he's going to get every opportunity to stay there at right tackle.
Yeah, I'm getting text messages now from the coaching staff, James. They're not real happy with this interview, so I probably play with. Now we all seen it. We all seen it, man. We get it. I'm with you. One more positive thing I do want to hit on here is Jonah Williams looked pretty damn solid at left tackle. That was fun to see, a guy that didn't get to play all last year, and he's basically a rookie going in at left tackle, counting on him significantly, and he played well.
He did. He absolutely did. And there were some rough spots, especially in that first half, but he settled in against high-end opponents. And that's the key. And honestly, if Jonah just, got his head kicked in on Sunday, I would give him a pass, right? It's Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram. But you saw that fight in him in the way he responded to adversity. We always focus on Burrow, and I've already praised him multiple times in this, over the past 10 minutes or so. But the way Jonah responded after halftime as well. And I will say, I thought Michael Jordan played well. I liked what he did in camp, and you notice all of his physical traits. And I think that's a guy, along with Jonah, that left side, and obviously we know Trey Hopkins can be serviceable. I feel really good about that side. Unfortunately, the right side, there's some question marks, especially with Xavier now going on injured reserve. But there are reasons for optimism in the trenches. Unfortunately, they couldn't fix every line spot in one offseason, which I totally get. So they're going to have to scheme around Bobby Hart, or really probably whoever on this team plays right tackle this season.
Yep.
One more thing about Sunday and away from the offensive line, which we know is weak, was the comeback of A.J. Green for however long it's been. From what we saw, he looked good. What's your thoughts on A.J.'s performance in week 1?
I thought overall he looked really good. Look, it's his first full game in 23 months. That's insane to say. I mean, he hadn't completed a game since October of 2018, late October. And I thought he looked sharp. I thought he looked in shape. There were a couple times where I don't think it's age. I think it was rusty moments, just little routes, little sloppy things that I think he'll work on. But he's going against a high-end corner. And that was a battle. I thought he, for the most part, won that battle. And, if Burrow was able to, and, it's just a tick off, Burrow was able to hit him in the end zone there, or They didn't call the offensive pass interference at the end, which, again, insane to call that. That's like calling, a foul on a 3 at the buzzer, in the NBA or something. Just ridiculous. Then we're not having this conversation. So I think AJ Green looked really, really good. I expect him to be elite this year. I know some are doubting him because of age and injury history, but as long as he's healthy, I expect him to be the same 7-time Pro Bowler that's dominated for the Bengals for the past decade.
Comeback player of the year this year, James, if he stays healthy, in my opinion. I'm really
I believe it.
So, look, a lot of positives to build on. Just a gut punch the way the game ended. But at the end of the day, there's definitely things to build on here. Mm-hmm. And I just have to believe, and maybe it's just false optimism on my end, but I have to believe they're going to figure some things out to get things better every game and on the right side of that line. I think they're going to figure that out. So let's move on to the game this week. And I'd like to be able to pull up the injury report, James, and kind of give us some insight on that. So we're playing the City Up North here this week. James, kind of go through their injury report first, if you don't mind, because there's some big names on their list, the injury list as well.
There absolutely is. You look at a guy like Jack Conklin. We're talking about right tackle. Jack Conklin was brought in 3 years, $42 million this offseason to solve the Bengals' issues at tackle. They had a full practice today, so the fact that he didn't practice is pretty telling. And tomorrow's injury report is going to be the make or break for a guy like Conklin. And I think you look at all those guys, and even a guy like Landry who didn't practice today, I would expect him to go. He had off-season hip surgery. It's a short week. He's going to be ready to go for prime time. And the same thing might be, the case for Conklin. But if he's out, that's such a huge opportunity for Carlos Dunlap and Carl Lawson and Sam Hubbard that you have to take advantage of. And especially with the deficiencies that the Bengals could have on the interior of their defensive line. So the one guy I think that stands out on that Browns injury report is Conklin, just because of, one, how well I think that the Browns offensive line played. As bad as they were, the offensive line I thought was pretty good. But yeah, Conklin's the key there. And there's some other big names. Olivier Vernon and others on that report. But Conklin is the key, I think, for the Cleveland offense.
Yeah, so they just get their butts handed to them 38-6 against the Ravens. Nobody expected them to win that game, but it was pretty ugly. So they had some really glaring issues, special team issues. Mm-hmm. But the one thing they did really well against a very good Ravens defense, they averaged over 5 yards a carry with Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Over 5 yards a carry against those guys. You would think the key to this game for the Bengals to win, stop the run. Make Baker beat you is where I'm at on this, because their running game is pretty damn strong.
I couldn't have said it better myself, because let's start with the Bengals in their injury report. Geno Atkins, I expect him to miss a second straight game. It sucks. It stinks. He's great, but I don't expect him to be out there. Mike Daniels, it was a walkthrough on Tuesday, but he wouldn't have participated in practice due to a groin injury. If those two guys are out and I'm the Browns, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to run the ball right up the middle, tire out DJ Reader, and feast on Christian Covington and Andrew Brown in the interior of this Bengals defensive line. And they might not have success early on, but by the third and fourth quarters, it might be pretty tough without having Daniels and Atkins. And we'll see on Daniels. I think Daniels is to be determined. The Bengals said Atkins was day-to-day, but I think those are things to certainly monitor going into to Thursday. Because, look, it's the best running back duo in the league. I get it. We're talking Bengals and we don't want to praise the Browns. Kareem Hunt's a stud. People forget how good he was in Kansas City, and he's starting to flash now. He flashed at the end of last year for Cleveland, flashed again the other day in the passing game. And if I'm the Browns, I would run the offense through Chubb and Hunt in the passing game and on the ground, because Baker has struggled to connect with Odell Beckham Jr. And I look at this Bengals defense, I don't want to attack William Jackson III or Jesse Bates. I want to go after Jermaine Pratt in coverage, and I want to go after Akeem Davis-Gaither in Logan Wilson in the young guys and take advantage of that. And that, to me, is the key. Now, I will say this, guys. You just mentioned the Browns got blown out. I was there for their underachieving 6-10 year last year. They're hearing it all week about how it's the same old Browns. So I think the key for the Bengals on Thursday is to punch them in the mouth right at the get-go. Don't get down. Don't allow Baker to get into a rhythm. Don't allow him to throw a touchdown and start celebrating at home in front of 6,000 fans. It's the opposite. Get the ball, take it right down the field. And I think that has a lot to do with Joe Mixon in doing the exact same thing I just described with the Browns. Go score and get a 3 and out, because all of the pressure is on the Browns. No one expects the Bengals to be good this year. Nationally,
Right.
There's all these expectations for the Browns, and they've dealt with that for a year plus now, and they just got crushed. And everyone's saying same old Browns and wondering if Case Keenum's going to replace Baker Mayfield and if Odell Beckham Jr. should be traded. And if you jump on them early, and it could just be 7-0 and then a 3 and out, that doubt is going to start to creep in, and that frustration. And that's when you can get them rattled a little bit. So I think that's kind of the key here. On the flip side, I think the Bengals could respond to getting punched in the mouth a bit, but the Browns, they might be on the ropes after just 1 week, even though it was the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, there was another stat I saw somewhere on social media today that Baker Mayfield has more commercials than he does touchdowns. I can't believe it. Must have been a 2-year deal on commercials for him. I don't know. And James, just to let you know, I know they're saying 6,000 in the stadium, but I think it's going to be 5,975 Browns fans, and we know at least 25 Bengal fans that will be there, including us. We're going to be there.
You're going to be there.
We're going to be in the stadium. Absolutely.
All right.
These two will be there.
We can't get
Okay.
across the border. He'll be an illegal. We need a card. So.
I didn't really see. Okay, that's awesome. I didn't know you guys are going to be there. That's great. So there will be some support for Joe Burrow on the road in the Battle of Ohio.
Yeah. Just stay tuned. You'll see us up there. You'll see it. It's going to be fun.
I might come say hi. You never know.
Absolutely, brother. I owe you a beer anyhow, James. So at some point, we're going to buy you a beer. So what else do you think, man? What else do you think stuck out from like last week to this week, where you expect some kids, maybe some younger players? I thought the line back and core at the end of the day played pretty damn well as a young group. What do you expect from growth from game 1 to game 2 with some of these younger players?
Well, from a growth standpoint, I think you certainly look at the linebackers, and there were a couple times as good as they played, and you look at Jermaine Pratt, and he leads the team in tackles, but then you look at his Pro Football Focus grade, and it's not great. Same thing with Logan Wilson and Akeem Davis-Gaither, and that's just one metric, right? That is not the end-all be-all. But I think part of that has to do with just coverage. So the more they're in coverage, the more they have to deal with a Keenan Allen, who didn't have a huge game the other day, but he had a couple catches when, in Logan Wilson's area when they were running some zone. I think he's going to adjust a bit, and he's playing a similar receiver in Landry this week, assuming Landry goes, and I think he will. So you want to see some growth in that department, just noticing the crossing routes and things like that, because ultimately the linebackers are going to be challenged more this week, even if those guys in the trenches play. Even if Mike Daniels is able to go, because of Kareem Hunt's pass catching ability and Nick Chubb. As good as Austin Eckler is, I don't think he's either one of those backs. And you might think I'm insane to say that, but I think Hunt's elite in a variety of ways. And I think Chubb is great between the tackles, and he has breakaway speed. So these linebackers are certainly going to get tested. So when you talk about young guys taking another step, it's a short week. It's hard to do. And obviously you want Burrow to grow as well. But I certainly do look at that linebacker position.
Jamie, you guys got anything? I have some more, but I need to shut up. I could talk.
Just one thing we saw Sunday, which is an anomaly, is the fumble by Joe Mixon. It's something 500 some carries that he hadn't fumbled. How big of the game plan is he going to be moving forward, especially on a short week going into Cleveland about pounding the ball, despite what we're seeing with the offensive line?
I thought that was the big fail of week 1. Joe Mixon, a whopping 2 targets, and one was the first play of the game. He was just non-existent in the passing game. And I think that's kind of the key early on. We talk about the offensive line and scheming around it. What better way than to get Joe Mixon involved in the screen game, in the quick pass game, get him matched up against linebackers? So fine, you didn't do it week 1. We're moving forward. I'm looking at this Browns roster. I've talked to multiple people in Cleveland. Guess what? Their linebackers, young, inexperienced. You should be able to take advantage of them. You think the Bengals linebackers are questionable because of youth and things. No. They're much better and in a much better spot than the Browns are at that spot. And then you can also take advantage of their secondary, because outside of Denzel Ward, I see beatable guys. So to me, I would feed Joe Mixon obviously on the ground, but try to get him involved in the air, because getting him involved in the air doesn't just help Joe, right, and get him in space and make him make a play. And he's obviously their top playmaker on this offense. I think that's pretty clear at this stage, but it gets Burrow in a rhythm. And that's the key. Burrow wasn't in a rhythm at all last week. He was fighting it all day long until that final drive, which is amazing that he was able to switch it on. But I think that's the key.
That's a great point. I mean, it was funny to kind of see, again, the pressure that he was under was just crazy. And veteran quarterbacks wouldn't have handled it as well as he did. But that last drive, that 2-minute, that up tempo, man, I think he felt good in that pace of the game there. But look, I'm with you, man. So everybody, we got a ton of folks right now on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook right now. Everybody heard it. James said the Browns. I said the Browns. Damn it. I was going to go this whole thing, not say you got me. The city up north goes down. Bengals win, and we go 15-1 the rest of the year. James Rapien said it.
I did. I absolutely 100% said it. I will say this, guys. It is a winnable game. There's no doubt about it. I think it's again, the key, if I'm the Bengals, jump on these guys because they're reeling and they're going to want to fight back. But if you just jump on them right away, you might see some chirping on the sideline and frustration, and that's what you want to do. You have nothing to lose, everything to gain. The pressure's all on the Browns. Believe me, the pressure is on the Browns on Thursday. And I think that's a good position to be in, So I like their chances. I think it's going to be a tough game against a talented team, but I do like the Bengals' chances.
James, now we have to get you out of here. Just one quick question for me, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on the kicking situation with the Bengals? Should we be worried? Is this what's going on?
Yeah, no, I get it. It's weird, right? Because the Bengals claim a kicker today, and you see that headline, and you're like, oh, they're replacing Randy Bullock, who missed the 31-yard field goal. In most fans, just, especially casual fans, they see that and they're like, oh, they're replacing their kicker after he missed the potential game-tying field goal. Well, that isn't the case. The reason they claimed Austin Seibert, who was released by the Browns because he missed the field goal and an extra point on Sunday against the Ravens, is because of COVID-19 protocol and how hard it is to get a kicker who wasn't already on a team getting tested every day in right away. This was just such a convenient move. Not because Randy Bullock isn't going to play, but it was insurance. It was an umbrella policy. That's exactly what Austin Seibert is. Just in case those Cavs aren't feeling right on Thursday, the Bengals have someone on their roster that they can use and activate for to kick field goals. So it isn't Kevin Huber or it isn't, Bengal Jim going out there trying to kick, because it might have had to have been you, man, because I don't know what they would have done. And so he's a backup plan. Zach Taylor reiterated today, Randy Bullock is the starting kicker. I do think it's interesting, though, and I think it's a wise move that the Bengals did this, especially because they didn't have to cut anyone to do it. They just put Xavier Su'a-Filo on injured reserve, and that was going to happen anyway. So it's a wise move, and like I said, he's just an umbrella policy for the Bengals kicking situation.
And James, I'm glad you kind of clarify that. Obviously, social media today was just on fire about right, and people look at the surface and that's what they see. You got to dig a little deeper to understand. I'm glad you kind of dug into that a little bit more so our viewers right now could kind of understand the why behind that. So James, we appreciate it, brother. Safe travels up to the city up north, and I hope to see you up there. And if call me, I definitely owe you a beer or two. James and I will be up there, and we got a bunch of folks coming with us, man. So thanks again for being with us.
I might have to get you on my pregame video, Jim.
You do it, brother. You do it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
All righty.
I'm glad he dug into that. Thanks for asking that question, Jamie, because I knew that, but that's not being talked about at that level on social media. It's just the quick, snap reaction of what are they doing? What are they doing?
Well, I knew it wasn't to replace Randy, but it's interesting about the COVID-19 protocols. That makes perfect sense.
Yep.
It's one thing that, I didn't think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's smart.
And we're, T minus 47 hours to kickoff up there. So it's going to be here before we know it.
But I will say, though, Jim, you guys will be there. So if someone needs to take the field to kick it.
Well, you know what? I was just thinking, this is the time you need Ocho Cinco on the team. Remember when he kicked the extra point there in New England for the preseason game?
I actually saw some people comment today saying they should bring Chad Johnson back.
There you go. All right, we got a lot to cover tonight. We have Tom in here to do our history segment.
Ooh, there he is.
Bring him in. Tom, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
Pretty good. How about you guys?
Good, man. Tom, I'm pumped about this session. So this history session today. So we're going to go back, kind of share some stories about the city up north, or what do you call the city up north, Tom?
The Lake Erie football team established by Paul Brown in 1946.
Yes. So let's talk about. I mean, I think there's a lot of fans, Tom, that just don't know how important this game was to Paul Brown and his family, and even to today. You know, Troy and Katie and Mike and that front office. This is a very important game with the history that happened there. So let's go back a little bit and kind of, in 1946, Paul Brown founded that team. Okay.
He was coaching at the Great Lakes Naval Academy, where he was a naval officer during World War II. He just didn't coach. He had a lot of duties for the Navy, but he also coached the football team there, which, shock of all shock, Paul Brown put together became a very powerful team, beat some very, very good college teams during that time. Ended up founding the Cleveland Browns with some investors. In fact, the original owner, I believe, owned a cab company up there. But and immediately in the All-American Football Conference, dominated, won all 4 championships, and the Browns very quickly became more popular than the NFL Rams in Cleveland, and the Rams headed west to Los Angeles. And from that, I think what's even more astounding is for the next 6 years, starting in 1950, when the Browns moved to the NFL, 10 consecutive years, 4 in the All-American Football Conference, his first 6 in the NFL, Paul Brown's teams played for the championship. Just 10, going to the Super Bowl 10 consecutive years. And then they played in 2 more championships out there. I believe he was up there for 17 years and had 16 winning seasons.
Yep. And it's crazy. This Thursday will be the 93rd game. I'm sorry, the 94th game that they play against each other. The Bengals are 51-42, winning record against the city up north. But in 1963, this is where it gets crazy, right? So Art Modell was one of the majority owners, barely majority owner. In 1963, he gets fired by Art Modell. They didn't get along. Paul didn't like him and vice versa. But the straw that broke the camel's back basically was Paul Brown traded their star halfback Bobby Mitchell for the rights to Ernie Davis, who broke all Jim Brown's records at Syracuse. At Syracuse, Paul Brown didn't tell Art Modell that he did that. Art Modell didn't find out until he was talking to the owner from the Washington Redskins. So in 1963, that's what got him fired. And the crazier thing about that was the timing of Art Modell firing Paul Brown. There just happened to be a strike. The newspapers were on strike in the Cleveland area, and they fired him right when the strike started. So the media strike limited the news about this getting out in the greater Cleveland area.
Art Modell still took a lot of heat. He took a lot of heat nationally. Everybody said, this is inconceivable. It's unexplainable. It's inexcusable. And I think really what made it worse was the reason, the method, and how he went about it. He came in, had a very big ego. He wanted the Cleveland Browns to be about him. Now here's Paul Brown, who's built one of the greatest dynasty, not just in football, but in all of sports and all of sports history. It's still true to this day. Art Modell needed it to be about him. And it wasn't going to be about him while you had Paul Brown there.
Right.
So he did he went behind the scenes. He did his best to stir things up. Players that might have grumbled or rolled their eyes at something, he got them angry and, made it as uncomfortable as possible and still, fired him. Paul still had a contract with the Browns, so he was a little bit in purgatory. Semi-retired to La Jolla, California, where he did some light scouting for the Browns, but was really working to get the franchise, his next team, which they wanted to be a expansion team, and fortunately ended up being in Cincinnati.
What's crazy, I didn't know about this either, Tom, that there was an 8-year contract when they fired him. He was just starting I guess I can't remember what 8 years of a contract left. He was getting paid over $82,000 a year every year from Art Modell and the Cleveland Browns through retirement. He's going out in California playing golf.
Playing golf, watching a few San Diego Charger football games, and sending in scouting reports back to Cleveland. Which
that's right.
But and right after he left in 1964, the Browns won another title with Paul Brown's team using Paul Brown's system, Paul Brown's players. And it's interesting you brought up the Bobby Mitchell trade. That was for Ernie Davis for the first pick in the draft. And what Paul Brown saw was another Jim Brown. And if he could have 2 Jim Browns in the backfield, they would be unbeatable. And, and they would have been, unfortunately, tragically, Ernie Davis got cancer and passed away.
It's crazy. So Paul Brown investors, they get a team here in Cincinnati. That inception of that team, the first year they played in the AFL, 1968, 1969, knowing when he got the franchise that there was going to be a merger at some point soon. So in 1970, Paul Brown's strategic plan, put in place many years prior, 3 to 5 years prior to that, was to get to the NFL and to be able to play the city up north. So it comes to Cincinnati in 68. In 1970, the NFL and the AFL merge, and they just happen to put the Cincinnati Bengals in the city up north conference. And Paul Brown would get 2 shots every single year against that team.
Well, actually, they and Art Modell was a little bit of a stickler. One of his, when they first talked merger, he said that, put his nose up in the air and said his team would never play an AFL team.
Right.
When they came to the agreement, they had to move a couple of NFL teams over into what would then become the AFC. The Browns, the Steelers, and the Colts all moved, and shock of all shocks, Art took the money and made the jump, which put him in the same division with the Bengals. And it made for a very heated rivalry, I'm sure, for nobody more than Paul Brown. But he came right out to him their first year together. The Bengals won the division, so Paul Brown would always have that when they were on quasi-equal footing. Paul Brown went up. The first game was in Cleveland, which was very close. It was a very good game. It was very close. And then down here, Virgil Carter had an incredible day at Riverfront Stadium. And the Bengals beat
let's
the
talk
division title.
Let's talk about that 1970 season a little bit, just the city up north versus Cincinnati, right? So they got to play in the 70s. They actually played teams in their division in the preseason. So I've got several things here from a memorabilia, all related to the city up north versus Cincinnati rivalry. So the very first time the Bengals played the city up north was in a preseason game. And Blanton Collier, who was a very close friend of Paul Brown's when he was up in city up north,
Top lieutenant.
Yeah, absolutely. Assumed head coaching responsibilities up there when Paul Brown left. So this cover of this game day program for a preseason game, the Bengals wind up winning that game 31-24. Paul Brown played his starters the whole game, this game, to make sure that he beat the city up north. So this is that game day program from preseason 1970, and the Bengals win that game.
One of those games, was that one of the games up in Columbus? They called that the Woody Hayes Bowl.
Actually, that one was here in Cincinnati. That's funny you said that, because and then the very first time they played in 19 – I have the wrong one here. But the very first time they played in 1970, early in the year, the Bengals didn't start out the year that well, but they finished really strong. But later in the year, the very first time the city up north comes down to Cincinnati, the Bengals beat them and beat them 14-10. So Paul Brown's first regular season victory against the city up north here in Cincinnati. And I just can't even imagine Paul Brown probably that night sitting in his, giant recliner with a scotch and a cigar, just with a big smile, ear to ear, loving the victory that night.
I don't think PB smoked, but I do know several players talked about when they won that game. And at first, you remember in the 80s, the big Sam Weich wouldn't shake Chuck Noll's hand. In the AFL at the time, Paul's first couple years there was a bit of a custom just because there had been some hard feelings and people getting hot on their collar. AFL coaches did not shake hands after the game. They just kind of nodded or waved to each other and went on to their locker room, which was how Paul handled it with Blanton Collier, the first game up there and the second game down here. But there's a really neat clip, if you can anybody ever finds it, of there's a clock ran out of that game. I mean, forget about being a 60-year-old man. He looked like a 18-year-old high school track star. He smiled, grinned, pumped his fist, and sprinted to the Bengals locker room. And more than one player said of all the years they were with him, it was the only time they saw him truly get emotional.
Yeah, and I got a couple more things here, but Jamie, we have a short clip here. If you could play that short clip, there you go.
What wounded Paul Brown most was betrayal by his assistants.
They made an agreement amongst themselves never to contact my father. These people were his friends.
The word coming out of the Browns was the game had passed me by. I spent 5 years out of football. In fact, the matter is I was fortunate to get back into it because Pete Rozelle made it possible for me to do so.
There are a great number of people in pro football, including myself, would like to see Paul back with the game. He did so much for it.
In 1968, Paul Brown returned to pro football. It was no longer a black and white game, but a vibrant technicolor world that he had created.
So you can see in Paul Brown's face in that interview, and even in Mike, man, there were some pain in that conversation. They were happy to get the opportunity to get back in.
It was terrible. It took the majority of what was his life away from him, and just like he said, it was like just surgically removing a big part of his life and a big part of his family. Yep. It was everything outside of his family to him, and those feelings resonated. I know Art Modell a couple times commented that over time things calmed and I think Mike himself kind of said, I have no recollection of that and no memory of that. Dave Lapham said that when the team bus pulled in a couple times to Municipal Stadium, and Paul would always be the first off, that one time Art Modell had just pulled up into his parking spot and they were walking right at each other, going in different directions, and never a word was spoken. Yeah. So no, I don't think that ever healed, and I can understand why.
Yeah, and it's
and the notion and the narrative that Art Modell tried to put out that the game had passed Paul Brown by was an absolute load of crap. 50 years later, the game was still trying to catch up. I mean, he was the first one that designed the receiver in the quarterback's ear to hear the play come in, variation of defenses, the short passing game. The West Coast offense came in after him, and his coaching tree is enormous and still continues to grow.
Right. Well, I've got a few things here. We'll finish with this. I've just got a boatload of games, home and away tickets here. I've got dozens and dozens of these games, but there's three of them that kind of stick out to me. Just to let you know how important this game was to the Brown family. When Paul Brown Stadium opened up in 2000, the very first game at Paul Brown Stadium was the City Up North. That ticket right there is that ticket stub from that game. So, Mike Brown requested that game to be the first game at Paul Brown Stadium because of the significance with his family in the City Up North. This is the very first game versus the City Up North. This is the very first game played against Paul Brown's Cincinnati Bengals versus the City Up North. And my first game, away game as a Bengals fan, was in 1989 against the City Up North. And it just happened to be a first time in Cleveland. We're driving, we get about half an hour outside, and it smelled like old bologna. It just stunk. I don't know, the factory's out there. It was not smelling real good in Cleveland. I don't think it still does. But anyway, it snowed, and it wasn't white snow, Tom. It was dirty brown snow. That's what I remember about my first road trip to the City Up North in 1989. Bengals win that game. I think that might have been a Sunday night or Monday night game or something that year. But a lot of history. I hope everybody watching, a lot of people may know about some of this stuff, but this is a very big game. If Paul Brown was still alive today, the importance of this game is big time to him and his family.
And I think we're going to see our young team continue to grow Thursday night. Yeah, I don't know what the final score is going to be, but clearly the trajectory is still up. Before you cut me off, Jimmy, can they punch all the guys up too?
Yeah.
James, do me a favor. I've been to Cleveland with Jimmy. Mandatory bed check is 10:30. For your sake.
We'll make sure he's tucked in and safe for you.
Thanks, Tom.
I mean, I'm sure his Cleveland fan club is going to be there just waiting to welcome into the city. But
they're going to know who you are.
As much of a celebrity as now, I think we have like 5 security detail coming, Secret Service guys, so we should be covered.
It's you two, 23 security guys?
Yeah, we're good. Tom, thanks again, buddy. We appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Tom.
Who day?
All right. That was fun.
That was cool stuff, man. Cool stuff.
You know, speaking of Cleveland, I've been to Cleveland once. It was Terrell Owens' one and only year as a Bengal. So needless to say, we didn't win that game. So looking to revenge my one loss in Cleveland this year.
So I'll save that for the end of the show. I want to wait on that one.
All right, let's bring our fan of the weekend.
Just want to let you guys know you've done a terrible job not saying the word Cleveland.
I know. I try not to.
I gave up before it even started.
Hey, guys.
Janelle, what's up?
How are ya?
Good.
Good. Hey, so Jimmy, I was at that game. It was a Monday night.
Yep, I knew. I thought it was a Monday night. It was miserably cold, dirty snow, and
cold, dirty. You got it. No, that's crazy. That's crazy.
All right. Well, welcome, Janelle. We appreciate you joining us. We took a week off from our fan of the week last week, so we appreciate you joining us this week. I think the last time I saw you might have been out in Seattle last year before the season opener.
It was
Cincinnati native, out west now. Tell us how your Bengal fandom started.
Oh wow! So it's kind of a funny story, if you will. But I was born in 1968 in September. In fact, my birthday is this week, so the Bengals better win for my birthday present.
Yes.
And I was born in Jewish hospital, and literally my parents drove me right past Nippert Stadium. And I think it was the second game. I always thought it was the first game, but I'm pretty sure it was the second game there. And from then on, I was a Bengals fan. It was just part of my DNA.
Going back to 1960, what a year to be born. All those years. Who's your favorite player after all those years, Janelle?
Gosh, I knew you were going to ask me this. And I struggle. I really do. I really, really struggle on this one. If it was the Reds, I could tell you right away. But the Bengals.
You can name multiple. It's okay.
I don't know. I mean, Kenny Anderson was awesome. Tim McGee was great. David Fulcher. Greg Cook. Had he not had the injury, he probably would have been one of our best quarterbacks. It goes on and on and on, right? Ocho Cinco. And it's so funny you guys said that earlier because I said that on right after the game on Sunday. I'm like, oh, they should just go get Ocho Cinco to kick.
My thought going back to that game Sunday, we haven't discussed this yet, that we should have just gone for it on whatever down it was, however much time was left, because I think we would have got it. But anyways, back to our fan of the week. We just mentioned seeing you in Seattle last year. Obviously, going to away games is fun. What's your favorite road trip, maybe the favorite city or favorite memory of seeing the Bengals on the road?
Well, last year I was fortunate also to go to Oakland and got to see Coach Flores. That was very cool. Got to have kind of breakfast with him, and so that was neat just to hear some of his stories. Going up north is always fun just because of the rivalry, and now I have friends that I've met over the years that are fans of the team up north. I love them, but it's okay, right?
She did it.
Seattle was very cool. I have to say that atmosphere and everybody was so friendly. But probably the best ever is going to London. There's nothing better than being international, learning how they all became fans and just fans of the NFL. And just that, I think, is just an experience you can't even describe without going and seeing it.
We've talked about week one a lot, especially with James on it to begin the show. What was your thought on the Bengals' performance in week one, Janelle?
You know, I was pleasantly surprised with Burrow. Yes, I followed him at LSU, at Ohio State, being an Ohio State fan. I will be completely upfront. That is not who I wanted them to pick initially, but I was happier with the pick after they did all the things they did in the offseason, which I think, and I could be wrong, but I think that was one of the best off seasons in recent memory, where they actually made some moves. They tried to fill some spots. I thought our defense played very well, so I was happy about that. And after the game, I was like, okay, Burrow, I'm all in. His 2-minute, or what was it, 3-minute drive, something like that, was incredible. I'm telling you, that was, as far as I'm concerned, as good as Peyton or Brady would have done.
Yeah.
With no, and the thing is, and no one's and he's not going to talk about it, and I appreciate that, but he had no OTAs. A lot of the stuff they were doing virtually, not a lot of time, with the guys. That I thought was a shiny moment for him.
All right, I'll shut up and stop asking questions. Jimmy or Jamie, go ahead.
I've got one. So, what? So, being from Cincinnati, now you're in California. I mean, I'm sure you found a Bengal bar somewhere you can go to watch the Bengal games, right? Do you have somewhere locally you go?
No, actually, I do have somewhere locally that I go, but there's a lot of other fans there. But what I will tell you, and last night I was there. I watched the game by myself. I was like, the first game I just need to watch by myself. And the bartenders were all like, "We thought of you yesterday." So they all know that I'm the big Bengal fan. And then last year was I forget which game it was, but I was there, and there was this father and his two sons. One was a Bengals fan, and something happened, and he took his hat and he kind of just put it down on the table, and he's under 10. Okay. So I walked over and I was like, it's kind of tough to be a Bengals fan sometimes, isn't it? And he goes, yeah. So I saw him the next time after London. And so I brought him some stuff. I told him, I said, next time I see you, I'll bring some stuff to you. So so I'm trying to build the Bengal fandom out here. How's that?
There you go.
Yes.
What's your prediction for the game on Thursday? Bengals versus the Lake Erie football team.
Hey, we win. Hands down. We're going to win.
You
got to watch the game, because if the Bengals win, I will be jumping on the field, running across the field. They're not going to catch me till I get to the other. I'm going to hop. I'm gone. I'm going to walk.
Yeah, don't worry. I will. And in fact, I talked to someone last night who has a friend who's a Bengals fan. I was like, you tell him to meet me here on Thursday night. We'll watch it together. So
there you go. All right, Janelle, we appreciate you joining us, and
no worries.
Carry that Bengal flag for us out on the West Coast.
I sure will.
Awesome.
All right. Take care, guys. See ya.
See ya.
All righty. I think, was she our second female fan of the week? We had a wife.
I believe that third. That was our third.
Wait,
maybe fourth.
Third for sure.
Third for sure. Maybe fourth.
Yes. Chris, Janelle.
You know what? This is what we're going to do. And we forgot to mention them earlier, our friends at Houday Nation. We know what the wonderful following they have on Facebook. I'm going to turn this over to our buddy Josh. Josh, who's one of the admins over there on Houday Nation, is going to get our fan of the week for next week. The onus is on him. We need to get one of those guys on. So whoever, guys, girls, whoever it is, Josh is going to get our fan of the week from one of the thousands of people they have on Houday Nation. So there you go. You heard it here first.
All right. Let's slide into our question of the week, guys. Everyone watching in the chat, we want to see your answers. We'll bring them up on screen as we discuss our positive take. What is your positive take following week number 1? James, we'll throw to you first.
Jimmy.
I don't know where we're pointing on this damn thing. Hey, look, I can't just do one, man, but I've got a couple positive. I thought the defense played outstanding. I mean, they played well. And I thought Joe Burrow would struggle, but I didn't know he would struggle because he was just so under pressure the whole game. But the biggest positive take for me, the biggest takeaway, that last drive, that mentality, you don't see that in rookies. I mean, that's a rookie without training camps, without OTAs, who took that team in a 2-minute offense and seemed like he'd been doing it for 20 years as an NFL pro. Took him all the way down, threw the touchdown to A.J. Green. To this day, it will always be a touchdown. Should have kept his flag in the pocket. A lot of positive takes there. That secondary was awesome. Jesse Bates. It was good to see A.J. out there. But the positive take for me, I mean, just to see Joe Burrow do that in that final drive was just extremely impressive.
And I'm going to stick with Joe Burrow, but go a different direction. Joe Burrow's legs, his ability to scramble. We know our offensive line isn't, mediocre yet. I'll use the word yet. But to see the first touchdown, the thing he audible to, quarterback drop the middle, we don't see Andy or Carson do anything like that. In this NFL today, you see Patrick Mahomes, you see Deshaun Watson, you see Lamar Jackson, those quarterbacks that can escape and run. And I think we have that in Joe Burrow. I think it's an important part of the NFL, and that was probably my most exciting thing to see. So when that pocket collapses, he can get out of there, run, and, not take that sack like we've dealt with for the last 15 years of the Bengals quarterbacks.
So I have one I'm going to share, but this one came up. I had to laugh. I thought maybe I would have noticed that. Did you guys notice that too?
Somebody shared that, yeah, and they said like OBJ has nothing on Coach Taylor. That was impressive.
So my positive take following week number 1, sort of. I mean, look, it's easy to say Joe Burrow. There's a million different angles we can talk about. I'm going to say the final drive and the sense of urgency the team showed. Not only Joe Burrow making the decisions, he played that final drive like not a guy who was hyped up to be the first round pick and could be a bust. He came in there, played it like a true professional. But I also noticed other things like, you guys catch up on when Tyler Boyd made the 3rd down conversion catch, threw the ball down, and then quickly realized, whoa, I'm going to grab that ball and get it back. Stuff like that. Just that quickness, that attention to making sure they get back to the line, get the next play going. I just thought that was awesome. I think I want to see more of that next week. Or this week, I guess, in a couple of days. I want to see them let Joe go out there and run that offense and play, do a lot of similar things that did in that final drive throughout the game.
Yep, I'm with you.
What do our listeners have to say?
All right, let's go here.
We appreciate. I think we're on episode 20 now, following the draft. So we appreciate each and every one that watches. We know not everybody watches it live. They'll go back and watch the replay or even on our podcast now. So we appreciate each and every one of you guys and gals turning in.
For sure. All right. Laura May says Burrow's poise in that final 2-minute drive in the defense was much improved. Without final timeouts, that last drive was impressive.
I thought Marvin was coaching there late in the game with no timeouts.
Chris says, I felt that Burrow being a rookie in his first game felt like they as a team did not give up, and he seemed so poised for a rookie even under pressure. John says, feel the team now believes itself, even had AJ excited with Burrow's leadership abilities. I like what AJ said. We're going to come back and build this brick by brick. So it sounds to me like they're buying into what they're trying to do. Getting it done on the last drive with no timeouts.
Brandon, we're rocking the Sunday Night Football shirt.
Yeah, it's true, eh? I just noticed that. Yeah. I want to see the final drive for the rest of the season. Gotcha there. See Anthony Brooks. We have multiple hands up there. We saw Burrow spread the ball around to get positive yards.
Yeah, that's a good point, Anthony. He wasn't laser focused. I think James Rapien hit on that earlier. He wasn't, targeting one receiver. He was going through progressions. You could tell really well. So, look, man, I think it's an important week this week, guys. Is there any more in the chat areas? I know we got YouTube.
They're coming in a little slower today for some reason. Some of the comments are coming in really slow. I don't know why.
Yeah, I know everybody. If you're on Twitter, you can. Yeah, good, very good point. And it wasn't just AJ. There was multiple players that were like, holy crap, this guy took charge that last year.
I mean, gushing things to say about him.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
I also loved Joe's response. I mean, you could see he was pissed that they lost this game. Like, you watched his news conference, you could tell he was hurt by it. Like, he did not like this feeling of losing. And he said today, like, I want to get that bad taste out of our mouth.
And, he's his own worst critic, gave himself a D. I mean, I wouldn't go that bad with the D grade, especially for his first game. But you got to like what we have as the leader of our football team now. Excited for Thursday.
Yep. So let's go ahead and close it out here, guys. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Again, we have Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube following, and it keeps growing every week. We appreciate everybody being part of this. Remember, this is by the fans, for the fans, like we've been doing all year, all the way through earlier this year. Good luck to everybody who are season ticket holders in the next two home games in October that are coming up. They're allowing 6,000 fans at Paul Brown Stadium. I know Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday morning at 10 o'clock, people based on your seniority could dial in and log on and try to order tickets. I've heard a lot of people that have gotten tickets. I'm not sure if it's going to make it all the way to Thursday, but good luck if you're out there trying to get those tickets. If your day is tomorrow, make sure you're ready to go by 10 o'clock. And I think the last day is going to be Thursday at 10 if there's tickets left. So good luck to everybody. Look, it's going to be fun to get back to Paul Brown Stadium with fans in the stands, even though it's going to be, 6,000 limited capacity. Also, James and myself and Hannah and Brandon and Caleb and there's a bunch of us scored some really nice tickets to the Cleveland game Thursday. We were heading up Thursday. We will do something live. It may not be a show, but we're going to go Facebook Live or something. Periscope. We'll figure out what we're going to do there, but we're going to go live from inside the stadium at the City Up North up there somehow, some way.
Wi-Fi in Cleveland?
What now?
Is there Wi-Fi in Cleveland?
Good point. They don't have Wi-Fi. We got to get
one of the rats outside the stadium, put them in a hamster wheel, and that should propel it good enough, right?
So it's going to be fun. This is a big game, man. We got to get this win, and it gives us some time to get some guys back healthy again. Gino likely is not going to play this week. Get Xavier back the following week, Gino back the following week. So it gives these guys a little bit more time to heal. Let's get this dub, whatever it takes to get this win Thursday, and give us some time for that next game to get everybody back healthy, make a big difference. Guys, in closing with this, guys, stay safe. I would just say, remember this, the immortal words of Sam Weich. You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati. Hooday. We love you guys.
One more thing as we talk about, remember the new Tuesday night time. Obviously, we're here live. Spread the word on that. This will be the way for the remainder, 16, 17 weeks left in the season. We want to thank everyone that came to the tailgate Sunday. It's a lot of fun. We did it safe. It was a blast seeing everybody. It seems like it's been forever since we've had the opportunity to catch up. We are working on logistics for the next home game in October there. So stay tuned to social media for that. One of our guests next Tuesday is going to be former Bengals draft pick Morgan Trent, cornerback out of Michigan, who is now a reality star, who's now obviously out of the NFL, transitioned to the real estate game out in California, is on the CNBC show Listing Impossible. So he's going to be joining us next week as a special guest. Look forward to having Morgan Trent on and then talking about his time with the Bengals and now what he's transitioned to post his NFL career. Jamie?
Yeah, I just wanted to say a quick thank you. I know one of you guys put up the post today about my mom having surgery on the Bengal Gym page. I had a few fans reach out to wish her well. I saw one earlier here. Lindsay actually said, I've been praying for your mom today, Jamie, so thank you for that, Lindsay. So, yeah, she's good. Surgery went well. She called me this afternoon. So thanks for those well wishes. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Everybody cheer loud on Thursday.
Who day, guys?
Hey guys, cheers.
See ya.